This is a little story about how I got even with one of those busybody neighbors that's always up in your shit, wondering, what is he doing over there? Why is he doing that? Why does he have all those cars? I was that neighbor with all the cars in the yard, but they were that neighbor that was always up in my shit. Back in the 90s, I owned this house. Well, the bank owned it, I was paying on it. But this is where I lived for a while. And this is the garage that I built hot rods in. Some really fast stuff came out of that little tiny one car garage that now has a door falling off. Well, this one day I was working on this car, not in this shop because this is my shop now, that little one car garage. I was working on this car. And the neighbors send their little 8, 9-year-old kid over, and he's asking me all these questions about the car I'm working on. So I'm all like, well, maybe cool. This kid likes cars. It'd be kind of cool. I'll just teach him some stuff. Well, he didn't ever come back over. He just kind of like ran off. And I was like, that was odd. So fast forward, I don't know, 6, 8 months, and I was working on this car in that little one car garage, trying to get it ready so I could drive it because I was re-enlisting and going back to the military. So, but I ended up taking the 70 GTO instead because it ran, it drove, it got around, and it was capable of a 1,500-mile drive to go to Charleston where I was stationed. And here's the same car in Charleston at the house where I had for a little while on base.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
So the arrow here is where I lived with my wife and 2 kids. And I bought it in the mid 90s, and then, well, I'm just not going to go into what happened with it. This is the garage I built stuff in. Little arrow flashing on it. And this is kind of a little hot spot for gearheads. People would come by and hang out with me while I was working on things and building stuff. Now, over here, where this arrow's at, that's where that busybody witch lived. Yeah. She was clear the hell over there. So I start getting these little notices from the city telling me that I have an unregistered vehicle in my yard. And each one of those notices comes with a $50 fine that I have to pay, or they'll just throw it on my property taxes. And I also got harassed by the cops, not parking close enough to the curb, parking too far from the curb, too far from the stop sign, too close to the stop sign, whatever they wanted to come up with. And I'm all like,
nope.
Now bear in mind, this car was inside my garage, with the rear end pointed in and the nose pointed out. And I was getting notices from the city telling me that I had an unregistered vehicle in my yard or in the street or in the driveway, which was none of the above. It became obvious to me who was doing the calling the city thing, because one of the city people let it slip that a neighbor had complained, and that was the only neighbor that I had a problem with. We actually had something in common. She didn't like my wife, and I didn't like my wife, but she decided to take it out on me instead, because she's just like that. So much like in this video, I have cars parked because I'm working on them in my garage and whatnot, about on the corner here where these cars are parked. It's rather interesting that things kind of end up the same. So I got this busybody neighbor, and I have a few cars available to me that are owned by other people. So what do? I park one here next to the driveway and one here next to the driveway. And then I park one in the back opposite their driveway. Now, he had this extended cab long box 4-wheel drive 1-ton Ford that he drove to work every day. He is her husband, and he has to go to work every morning. Well, these cars aren't there until about 3 in the morning. And he tries to back out. And he can't back out this way. He can't back out that way. So what does he have to do? He has to drive across his yard to get out to go to work. Well, they call the cops, and the cops come out and they see all the cars parked perfectly according to the laws of how far from the curb and how close to the curb and all that. So they mark all the tires and then they leave. Well, I come by and I grab all the cars and I move them, and then they're all gone. So when he comes home, he parks in the driveway. So it's not a problem, right? And then the next night, after he's already parked in the driveway and there's nothing there, 3 different cars appear outside their driveway. Completely different cars. Different license plates, different make, different model, different everything. And they just like miraculously are there in the morning. So he has to drive across his yard again. And I'm like, my plan is working perfectly. Now, he could have parked in the back, like they do, whoever lives there now does, put the big truck out back, but I think he had something else parked there, like a camper or a boat at the time. Well, this goes on for 3 or 4 days, and I park different cars, and the cops come out, and they mark everything, and then they all vanish, and then they're all back again, and he gets tired of driving over his yard. So what do? They finally realize that they can't do anything about me, so he tells her to quit messing with me, and they send their kid over to say, Dad says Mom will quit calling the city if you quit parking cars behind our driveway.
Nothing! You lose! Good day, sir!
And that, my friends, is how you get a black belt in Gearhead justice.